The first time Dannion got hit by lightning in 1975, Dannion told me a lot of things that would be happening. We just used to listen to him and just, we hear you, right. Of the predictions that Dannion wrote, all of them except for one or two are now documented as happened. We are polluting, we're killing the animals, the seas. We're seeing more earthquakes, more floods. The new earth is the emergence of the Rainbow Warriors. And those prophecies was done by a number of different nations, the Lakota, the Sioux, the Hopi. It is a spiritual awakening. It is a coming together of people, not preaching a religion or anything. This is not an earth religion. This is about restoring and doing those things that we know right to preserve, to help heal, to bring back respect. And Dannion talked about that.
The A.J. Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast.
I am here with Mel Peace Chief Standing Eagle, a Rainbow Warrior, and also the cousin of Dannion Brinkley. Dannion is one of the first near-death experiencers to gain worldwide fame. There was even a Hollywood movie made after him. So we're going to be talking about Dannion's predictions, Dannion's prophecies, and how these reflect what the Native Americans have been talking about and what is known as the Hopi prophecies. So this is going to be very interesting. Hello, Mel. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm glad to be able to talk to you and your audience.
I know you have a lot to say about your position as Peace Chief, also about what we're going through worldwide. We are shifting into a new era, and I know that this was predicted by the Hopis, by the Lakotas, but also by Dannion Brinkley. So you had the chance to discuss his NDE shortly after he had his first, and he made some predictions. So can you tell us about that?
The first time Dannion got hit by lightning in 1975, they had him in the ER at the University Hospital in Augusta, Georgia. And they had pronounced him dead. If you've heard Dannion tell his stories, he talked about being there in the room, sitting on a cabinet, looking down on the guys and everything that was going on. They had finally covered his body up under the sheet, and they rolled him out of the ER into the hallway where the elevator's at, where they take you down to the morgue. My wife was there, Tommy and a few others. Papa Brink, Dannion's dad, was in the ER talking to the doctors. And Dannion was somewhere, not in his body, but he was there. And his hand fell out from under the sheet. And when his hand fell out from under the sheet, my wife reached over and grabbed his hand to put it back under the sheet. And that's when he mumbled, "Don't let go of me, Alice Ray, I'm on fire." At that moment, it yanked him back into his body. And my wife has talked about the experience and the energy she felt when all that happened. So that was the very first time that happened. And then after that, I've been traveling and working with Dannion for over 46 years now, going on 47 years. And in the early days, we had long conversations about the world and things that was going on. He had spiral notebooks. I remember him making trips to go hear speakers on near death and things that was because he was trying to understand what happened to him and gain a better perspective. I went to a few of the meetings myself with him. And Dr. Raymond Moody, who wrote Life After Life and Reflections on Life After Life, Dannion's probably his greatest case. Dr. Moody was in Augusta at the time at the Medical College of Georgia. And so he would come over with his tape recorders. And if you remember the old cassette tape recorders with the handle, he comes showing up with that, wanting to record the conversations with Dannion, which was quite interesting. Dannion was distant side of the family, and I've been with him since the get-go of the hospice programs and through the whole thing. And probably other than his brother and sister, I would know him best because I have spent literally thousands of hours with him and being with him at bedside, being at the training programs and those things. And when Dannion used to tell me some of that stuff, We just used to listen to him and just, uh-huh, we hear you, right, right. Anyhow, Dannion told me a lot of things that would be happening. We talked about everything about the marches and the women in black and those that marching in Israel and all of that.
He talked about the future of the planet. And he also talked about the transformation that you later found out that was also prophesied by the Hopis.
That is very true.
What did Dannion mention that came true?
Of the predictions that Dannion wrote, all of them except for one or two are now documented as happened. The marches with the women, the ladies in black, Chernobyl, yeah, it was Wormwood when he was talking about it. Then they found out, oh, that's the name of this town where, and there was a couple things that I can't talk about because he wouldn't publicize them because he was scared of what it would bring to the readers if they really saw where we were at and what we're truly facing.
Did he predict that the world would go through a transformation? And can you talk a little bit about the prophecies made by the Native Americans?
To get to that, first of all, I want to say, and people look at my skin color and they wonder, I am Metis. Metis means, for your listeners that aren't aware, that I am part European and part Native American. So I have a blend. My father was a hellfire, brimstone, army chaplain, Southern Baptist evangelist. But I had many questions that were not getting answered because I was told, unless you believe and unless there's this one way, you are condemned. And I'm like, wait a minute. The people in Africa, the people on the Amazon that never heard this, they're condemned because they didn't profess and they didn't know. And that's just and loving. So I had to look deeper and understand and find the roots of Scripture and where they came from, how they were written, why they were written, how some of them were manipulated. And we can prove that they were manipulated because the letters from King James to his cousin are in the Museum of England. You know, and there's various other things in translation, words and all that was lost. And I hope I'm not getting lost in this. The Hopis are well known for the 9 thunders, prophecies that was written. And a lot of people question about the prophecies and what they represent and all of that. The first one of the 9 was Bahana. Bahana, it was white men. That was their first real view of white men when they came to America. The second one was they saw a coming of spinning wheels. And all of these was written way before we came here. The spinning wheels was later recognized as covered wagons with the wheels. The third one was a strange beast like a buffalo. Well, what do they have in Texas, in South America, those big longhorns? Okay, they came next. And then the fourth is the land would be crossed with snakes of iron. That was later defined as the railroads. And then the fifth one was crisscross of a giant spider with all over America. And all of a sudden, power lines started going up and telephone lines going up. There's the grid. And here again, they say that fulfilled that prophecy. And then the sixth one was about the rivers made of stone that would cross the country, and that later was identified as highways, crossing rivers, concrete, okay? And the seventh was the sea turning black and many living things dying. What did we see with Valdez and several others? What happened? All the fish, the wildlife started rolling, washing up onto the shore, being polluted. And then the eighth one, they talked about in the 70s, and I have some of the cassette recordings, and they actually talked about out on Art Bell and Coast to Coast, was when the hippies started growing the long hair, which was something that was Native American, and our hair is antenna. People don't realize, they say, oh, that's dead. No. If you start doing research, it's like an antenna. Everything's electrical. It picks up. It is frequency and its understanding. So the hippies started that. The ninth one is very interesting. The ninth one is about when the heavens fall on the earth. And that come to believe that is satellites that are flying around the earth. The United States has a satellite that they say has got 6 more years. The Chinese have a satellite, man satellites up their space stations, and theirs is much lower than our space station. So, oh yeah, they going across Colombia, South America, and North America, and they getting really good views of everything. And you can't stop that. That's just, get used to it. Big brother is watching you. But they see that one of those is going to crash, and when that happens, a lot of things are going to change, and depending on where it does, it's like when the asteroids hit the Gulf, and I'm sure you probably see, and what happened then, the craters, and it washed, and it killed everything living. So this is the change that they see happening, and then the emergence of the new beginning, which is part of hope and prophecy. And this is not totally about the apocalypse, because in Hopi prophecy, and I made reference to you when we was having a conversation about the why, and I believe I sent you that photo. And basically the why, actually, I'm going to do it with my fingers, is not a Y that's like we would think like that with straight, but it is a Y that has a spacing in between, and the top one of the Y is going up. And that is the white men. They're going up at a rate, they're trying to achieve, they greed, everything, they push it. But the Hopis, they stayed on course. They went forward. So there is the split. Now, here's the big problem. Earth is vomiting. Earth is throwing up volcanoes, fires, things that the Hopis wrote about. And there's things that I am yet not allowed to talk about. And I have another book that Dr. Robert Ghostwolf was working on when he passed, and it is now in edits, called Echoes from the Future. And this is end time prophecies of the Hopis. So everything that we're doing has to go through the prophecy keepers and approve the wording of how we present that out, because I don't want these people live a simple life. They still live, a lot of them still live in, people there on the reservation live in teepees. They still live in the adobes. Some of them still have no electricity. And what's interesting, people don't think about, our body is electrical. If you've talked to Dannion or listened to his speeches, you hear him talk about how much power it takes to make your heart beat. It is an electrical, and you have electrolytes and trace minerals that keep your system going. So when they first started running power grids and things at certain parts of the Hopi reservation, those around there started getting sick. And other things started happening because they weren't accustomed to those frequencies, and it was affecting them. So there's a lot of things that's going on, and a lot of questions about exactly what it means. The apocalypse, as in Revelations, they talk about the end times and Armageddon and those things. Armageddon in Hopi is a little different than the biblical version of it. It is a purging of the earth, and it can be a destruction of the earth. So in this time, as we start the new earth, is the emergence of the rainbow warriors. And those prophecies was done by a number of different nations, the Lakota, the Sioux, the Hopi. One referred to it as warriors of the rainbow. Another tribe in their prophecy called it rainbow warriors, again meaning the same thing. And these are the ones that will honor the old way, honor the Creator.
I'm going to share screen so you can read what you sent me regarding the Rainbow Warriors, okay?
Sure. From the Hopi prophecies, when the earth is dying, there shall arise a new tribe of all colors and all creeds, and this tribe shall be called the Warriors of the Rainbow, and it will put its faith in actions and not words. The Sioux prophecy, there shall come a time when the earth is sick, and the animals and the plants begin to die, and the Indians will regain their spirit and gather people of all nations, colors, and beliefs to join together in the fight to save the earth. The Rainbow Warriors.
How can you interpret that and explain it?
It is about every nation coming together for the common good of mankind, for your children, your grandchildren, the 7 generations to come. The earth is being ravaged right now. The cloud seeding are controlling. They're poisoning our soil. People think they're eating organic foods and they are not. We are polluting. We're killing the animals, the seas, the creatures of the sea are dying because of all the plastics and things that are being dumped into this. So it is being ravaged. It is being destroyed because of these things. We're seeing more earthquakes. We're seeing more floods. What just happened in Texas? What's just happened in North Carolina? What's happening in New York right now with flooding and subways flooding and shut down is not normal, not natural, not within the 100-year range. And they're now saying, oh, it's within the 500 and the 1,000-year range. Right. Make excuses to cover up what you guys are doing. Plain and simple. They're playing God. We need to get governments and the people and greed out of the sky and get back to the things of nature. We're not preaching a religion. We're not preaching a code. There is parallels between native prophecy and Christianity. The Rainbow Warriors, there was a Christian tract that came out in 1960, I think it was 1962, 1964, about Rainbow Warriors, Warriors of the Rainbow. This had nothing about the gay lesbian movement whatsoever. The rainbow was a symbol of new beginnings after the flood. If you recall in prophecy, if you've looked at any of the Hopi prophecies, there was great floods. Atlantis, there was 2 sinkings. And Lemuria and all, they are the descendants of those as the Maya. And so they're and also the Aztec nations, they're all kind of intertwined. Hopi believes that the beginning of the earth, the third moving in, started from there into Arizona, and from there it spread to the 4 corners of the earth. And there's caves that the United States government does not want people, that you can't go there, period, now. Some of them are on reservation property. They are guarded, protected. Drones can't be flown there. There are bones there that have been carbon dated, and they're not Hopi bones. They're European, white, fair skinned, red haired, that are carbon dated 55 to 5,200 years ago. That makes you think, doesn't it? So Hopi prophecy, they went to the 4 corners of the earth, and the tablets, each race took a tablet of stone with them. The white people took theirs up to the Switzerland area. The black folks to the mountains of Kilimanjaro. The yellow race, the yellow race to Tibet. The Hopis, the red race, holds the other tablets. And the prophecy keepers there have that. Now, it's interesting if you start looking at the connections between the different races, and there's always a little cord. You know, these little burning bushes they talk about in the biblical sense. There's all these little ties, and like Native Americans in days of old, they look for a leaf that was broken or a twig that was broken on a path to tell. Well, I believe those road signs are around us every day if we have our eyes open. And we're in a modern world. It may be a song. It may be a billboard. It may be that sign that's on your T-shirt that you was thinking about something and all of a sudden it's thrown in front of you, and I can give you examples of that. But if you look at just between the Hopis and Tibet, if you drove a spear through the center of the earth, it would go through Hopi land to Tibet. The Hopi word for moon is the Tibetan word for sun. The Tibetan word for sun is the Hopi word for moon. Now, wait a minute. They're so far away. How can these similarities exist? Coincidence? As Dannion said, I believe in them, but I've just never seen one. You know, to me, that is just another road sign letting me know we're on the course and we're on the path to help us see where we're going. I wanted to establish a base there of their base from the stone and where things came from. And the belief is that these stones will come back together in the new earth.
Near-death experiencers come back with this same message that you're mentioning. We need a change in the world.
It is a spiritual awakening. It is a coming together of people, not preaching a religion or anything. This is not an earth religion. This is about restoring and doing those things that we know right to preserve, to help heal, to bring back honor, to bring back respect. And Dannion talked about that. And in the Hopis, we got two choices. We either going to go this way, and man's going to drop a bomb, pollute everybody, kill all the animals, but earth will come back. Look at Chernobyl. Chernobyl now has life. There's animals running all over. There's new plant life and everything all over the place now. Earth will restore. It could restore without humans. We the most destructive of all on this earth, the most. And we were put here as stewards of the earth. So we go from stewardship to being the most destructive because of greed. Now, I personally believe in capitalism. I believe we should be motivated to do better and to be helped. But as we are blessed, as we give, so shall we be given. I tie in my Native American with my spiritual training from my dad and my family. So I'm able to blend these things, and it helps me have a better, fuller understanding of life and a greater respect for others.
So do you think there is hope for the world?
Yes. It's scary. I honestly think it's going to get... There's feel-good psychics out there that's all telling everybody it's all going to be great and it's going to be wonderful and all of that. BS. BS. It's not going to get better till we step up and we be the difference. The earth is going through changes. We're seeing it daily until the greed stops, until the poisoning stops, and until we start doing those things that's smart. We are on that destructive path and going to continue. And unless we are able to change and stop this and work together for the good, Rainbow Warriors is not a Native American group. There are Rainbow Warriors worldwide. Just before you and I spoke today, I was communicating with Grandmother Nezra. I was with her at Tanasi, and at Tanasi, that was led by Sacha Stone. If you don't know him, he worked with the UN and various other groups, and we are working with kings and presidents all over the world. In Africa, thousands of acres of land is now being cultivated, agriculture, hemp, and other things to help bring back products, clean the soil, cleanse it, grow plants, help food, help educate, give them tools and resources to make them sustainable in a good way. And by doing that, we grow. And we know, and there's one thing that I want to bring up is the power of prayer. And this is important, and I wrote about it in my book, Study. And I'm just going to rip that out of the book and share it. There's been a number of studies done. The VA, Veterans Administration Hospital, for those that don't know, they found, regardless of your religion, whether you were Christian, Hindu, whatever, those that was prayed for healed quicker and used less medication. There was a study done, and this is in the book, and I'm not going to go into the details, but the farmers got together and started praying over their crops. They didn't start adding fertilizers and all the other stuff. They got together and prayed. They sent a conscious, willful intent, which is energy. Energy is convertible. It is frequency. We're all electrical beings. We're all frequency. They started praying over their crops, and the crops became abundant, greater in the areas that was prayed. much more abundant than the others. And you know what it did for the farmers? More money, more money, more money. It allowed them to better take care of their families. So there is a way of being smart and using the tools that the Creator provided us. So, and we could go on and on talking about different things and believing that the one that they call Jesus coming to America because he was a world traveler, and all of that stuff can be found in hieroglyphics in the caves. So many of us believe that he came to America teaching a way of life and teaching us how to do these things.
They've been talking about the age of Aquarius. Some people also mention that we're going from third dimension to fifth dimension. They talk about a new earth. And this more or less coincides with what the Hopis mentioned, right? Did Dannion mention this also when he came back?
He didn't refer to it as from the Native American perspective, but he talked about disease and things that was happening. He talked about, and one statement he made, as Russia, and we need to keep remembering this, as Russia goes, so goes the world. They always talked about America was being a Christian nation. Do you know Russia's more Christian than the U.S.? Things that our forefathers held true to is no longer held to those standards because everybody's afraid their feelings are going to get hurt. Don't step on this person. And because one person gets their feelings hurt, they control that 1-2% control what the other 98% of the population can say and do and think. And because of that, those things are being pushed in our schools and our colleges, and there is a total mental breakdown because I'm not sure your age, but it's probably close to mine. We knew that we had to work, and if we didn't survive. The kids nowadays, they don't know what it's like to go to pick up a telephone on the wall and dial a number with a rotary or call the time. They have no concept of these things because they take it for granted. So the things that was instilled in us when it comes to honor and respect, too many of our young ones have lost that. And I see this happening in tribal entities across America and the world. And this is conversations that I'm having with the grandmothers and working on a reunification gathering, a bringing together, because we have lost our way. And unless we get smart and turn back from those ways and use the tools before us, I'm not saying don't run electricity or anything else, but be smart. Use the things that's there and teach. So under reunification, I'm working now and meeting with tribal elders from multi-tribes to bring tribes together, because literally in America, we have tribes that will be extinct in 20 or 30 years. You go to tribal gatherings, unless you're on a reservation where there's a cluster and that mindset is there, thankfully. But if you come to the East, in areas where tribes that do not have on reservations, I live in a community, in a neighborhood. I live on a street corner. My neighbors know I'm Native American. I'm out there burning sage and I'm doing my ceremony in the yard. But if not, they wouldn't know. The neighbor on the other side wouldn't know. Everybody's listening to rock and roll, listening to rap and everything else. And the kids don't know the stories. So we're under unification. We want to bring back the family unit together to teach respect, bring tribes together so there's more like-minded, and we're working to structure this around the world to build back honor and respect first for each other, because we can't help Mother Earth unless we have our hearts in the right place. And once we have our hearts in the right place, then our minds will then be in the right place, and then we'll be focusing for the good of all here on Mother Earth. People don't realize the clothes that we wear, once upon a time, everything was made of hemp. Originally, blue jeans, Levi Strauss was made of hemp. The American Constitution was written originally on hemp. Now, greed all of a sudden brought into different products in things such as making paper from wood, the pine, which means they bought thousands of acres and grew trees, ripped them down for those purposes. Cotton, pesticides. We know that what pesticides do, they kill, they cause cancer. 1/3 in America, 1/3 of all pesticides are used on cotton. Now, if you use hemp, hemp's just as soft, just as smooth, and actually it is healthier. The VA did a study and they found that bed linens that were 73% hemp and polyester harbored less bacteria than cotton linen sheets. Getting back to things that are smart, plastics. These bottles, destroy. I keep filling mine up over and over. They destroy. But however, plastics can be made from hemp and it will break down in about 60 days. Insulation, concrete, go to Rome. Look at all the big cities and the walkways and everything that was done hundreds, 1,000 years ago, and they still there. Why? They were made with hempcrete. Insulation. It is a great insulation. It's earthquake proof. Now that's just talking about the building side. In Canada, they're making an automobile made of hemp. Henry Ford actually made the first car made of hemp, and it actually ran on hemp fuel. So we got healthy benefits from it. Oh, also cane. I don't want to leave out bamboo. There's other things there, not just hemp. But another important factor is it takes those heavy metals and pollutants out of the soil. Rainbow Warriors is about cleaning up this earth, about restoring it to the pristine condition that the Creator provided us. Back in like late 1978, Dannion was telling me, they're going to be writing about you. You're going to go down in history books. I was laughing at him. And then about a year or so later, and you've got copies of the newspaper clippings, I was doing some work with a transducer, and it was used in the movie Saturday Night Fever with John Travolta, and he was talking about the sound in the round. Well, I had a deaf girlfriend when I was in high school, and so she liked to dance. But in order to dance, we had to get in front of them big old stereo system we had at the house and crank it up so she could feel the vibration against the back of her legs to get the sway and the movement. So with the transducer, I found that we could take literally anything almost and turn it into a resin board. I could put it against a 2x4 or place it against the wall, and it would literally resonate the frequencies through that. If you think of a rear of a speaker, it has a voice coil and a cone. So what we did was took those electrical impulses and those frequencies, and we drove it into whatever. So I took the transducer and stuck it against the jaw and against the back of the head, because in the inner ear, there's a little bone fiber called cochlear transducer that has all the nerve impulses that sends it to the brain. Well, by putting that, we turned their skull into a literally like a grand piano resin board, or a guitar, acoustic guitar resin board. So they was feeling. So the first big break was in the news was in Charleston, South Carolina, Sunday morning headlines. We wired a stage with our transducers and all at the state deaf convention, and everybody was on the stage with their shoes off, and there was some speakers around, but they was literally feeling the vibration and the music through their feet. Took it on to the next level, and then I made the front page headlines of the Florida Times and Union when we went to experiment and try it at a couple schools that were deaf schools. And so we was with Marcy Huggins down in Florida and Dr. Joseph McFarland. And there was this little girl, profoundly deaf. Her name was Tracy Burris. Till the day I die, I will never, ever forget that little girl. And Dr. McFarland stood behind her with a microphone. She could not see or read his lips. And I held them transducers to her head. And this was also, I think it was on Channel 7 or Channel 4 in Jacksonville. We made the news, then the Sunday, and then the headline of the newspaper. But that little girl, Dr. McFarland, stood behind her with the microphone, and he said, dog. And she stood there, and she just did a little shake and got a grin on her face, and yeah, and he repeated it, dog, and dag.
Did this transducer have to do anything with Dannion's NDE, the information he got?
These are things that he saw. And so we went searching, and then me and him jumped on an airplane, and we went out to California, met with the guy that was building the transducers, and he was calling them disco disc in hockey putts. So we bought it. We bought the company from him and brought it back to Aiken, South Carolina, and called the company Scientific Innovators, Scientific Technologies. And we had a marketing company come in, and that was our demise, because they had another major company that they were handling, and we became their tax write-off. But that transducer was the predecessor of the semen transducers now that are the implants that everyone has. So if we had not lost it, Dannion and I probably be worth $100 million by now.
You wrote a book called A Life Most Magical, and the grandmothers told you that you were walking in magic and that you should write your story. Can you tell us about that? Why did you write your book?
Well, I had worked with Dannion for all these years and managed him, handling all his books, and it never occurred to me to even think about writing a book. Like Dannion, I've been hit by lightning twice. I wasn't hit, but thankfully I didn't get killed. I was a walking zombie for a week or so. Space cadet, totally. I was at a wedding when the lightning hit and flying through the air. They picked me up, carried me, and I was gone. I don't remember anything about that. However, it's an awakening. And I don't know what actually transpired in that week because I have memory lapses. These things happened, and I was with Dannion, and out of nowhere, my wife being Native American, I started getting involved with the Native American culture and going to events. And then one thing led to another. I started going through ceremony, the blood ceremony, giving to Mother Earth, my sweat lodges, boyhood demand, and the various other things that we do. And so it was a growing and a learning, and it allowed me to see and bring these things together. So I was nominated, then elected, and then I was feathered by Chief Louis Chavis. Then Chief Sonny Rayner came from the West Coast, and he did ceremony in Charlotte with ICANN. They was there, and I was in shock that it was on television. It was on I think about 5 million people. Saw everybody lining up, blessing me, hugging me, giving me chokers and feathers. And then from there, another thing happened, another thing happened, another thing happened. Flutes being gifted to me, the drum from Grandfather Yellow Horseman, and from a tribal entity, and from another tribe, the Navajo. This here is a drum and this is ancient, from one of the Navajo code talkers. And this came over doing work with Dannion and hospice, and Bonnie Ryan, who wrote the first hospice programs with the VA, which Dannion was involved in, and I was one of the original people in that. So all these little things started coming together, and Dannion wanted me to get more involved in doing some openings for him. And so I was able to stand up and tell about that and blend in some of my experiences. And then I was speaking on 11/11, and Grandmother Shoshana, who is Ghost Wolf's widow, heard me speaking. And next thing I know, I thought I had me some stalkers. I had some grandmothers reaching out to me, and man, it's amazing what you can find with Google on the internet. So they knew about my life, and some of them out there was calling me magic. And Ghost Wolf's widow, she's wonderful, exquisite, beautiful lady. She's, I think, 89 years old now, and brilliant, just a wealth of knowledge. And she was telling me the things that she wanted to know about where I picked up what I was talking about, because these was words and things that Ghost Wolf had been writing about, and there was no way I should have known them. So from there, that led to conversations and more conversations, and another grandmother on the telephone, and then another grandmother. And so after all these conversations, they said, we want you to start journaling. We want you to write down these things in your life. We want key points. So I started listening to them, and I wrote some things, and I emailed it over to them, and they like, we want you to elaborate on this, and we want you to do this. Next thing I know, grandmother Annie Whitehawk, she was an editor with the Associated Press. And grandmother Shoshana, she was involved in various federal programs and other business involved with Native American. And they did the editing. They titled my book, A Life Most Magical. And the subtitle was going to be A Story of Hope. Hope did not fit. The word is faith. There is a big difference in words. Is frequency is important that we know what we're saying. And I know I massacred the English language as a Southern boy, but there's a big difference between I hope something's going to happen and I got faith. Because if I got faith, I'm going to figure a way and I'm going to push to get it done. So this book is all magical. They titled it. An artist designed this eagle, gifted it, licensed it to represent me. Then some other people designed and laid it all out. Of course, Dannion wrote on the back for the book. And then at the very end is a prayer. And the prayer was written by grandmother Shoshana. And I like to open up books. And Dannion's always talking about, and I just flip this open, no marker. And the first thing I come to is take the breath of the new dawn and make it part of you. It will give you strength. That is a Hopi prophecy. So things are put before us that we need to know. So somebody out there that's watching this program needed to know that, and that tidbit's there. So this is a story of my world, the evolution that brought me to where I'm at now in my understanding. And I have heard from people that has amazed me that's read my book, doctors, people that's with, actually works with the government, had a general tell me. And I had one guy told me, and he works with the Federal Aviation. He told me he read my book several times and was going back reading notes. And I'm like, wait a minute, that book's not that big. It's an easy read. And it triggered things in him and his life that made him go back to look and reevaluate. So I'm hoping that my book will help do that, will help inspire you, will help let you see of things to come in the future and where we're going to. And so I have been so blessed that I was at Tanasi. And since that event, I have had nations reaching out to me around the world and telling me, we are your tribe. We are Rainbow Warriors. They are seeking knowledge. They're working together. And it's not just Native Americans, but all over Japan and Australia and Africa and Ireland, in England, in South America. Matter of fact, Grandmother Ezra, I think, is going to be in your area in Columbia next month. So people are seeking knowledge, and I've been asked to come to a number of places. So it's all new for me. I am young. I am learning. I'm studying these things, and to be able to be chosen to walk in the footsteps of Dr. Robert Ghostwolf and what he did, and to be able to carry one of their most sacred peace pipes, and to be at ceremonies that's recognized by all nations. And it's humbling to sit there and to see these people. And I'm like, wait a minute, they're talking to me? Who am I that they are paying me any attention? And then I have to look and think, we all have a lesson. We all have something to teach. And Creator makes sure what is supposed to happen is put before that one, that two, that needs to know that. And there's powers in numbers. Christians always said, where two or three are gathered in my name, I will be in the midst. It's a multiplier. It is energy. It is power. So in that power of prayer over those plants, over those crops, over that person in the VA, there is power and there is energy if the person is there to receive. The plants, science has proven they communicate. They now hook up little electrodes to them. You've probably seen that. And frequencies. So we are a living planet. And to be in this time is probably one of the most exciting times to be on this earth. And things aren't going to get better, and there's scary shit. I hope that was not. The brain chips and all of those things. don't get me near them, because AI has some really great information, but then what happens to spirit? What happens to heart when you got something telling you that what all of a sudden you're not thinking, you're not feeling, and you are losing? Man must maintain being pure and one with Creator. So be humble, which is hard to do for some of us. Creator's got a sense of humor. He throws us this stuff and says, let's see how you gonna do that and see if he can carry that one through. So I pray that each day that I do what I'm supposed to do and that it makes a difference. So we're going to keep focused on this. We're going to keep working with others. And I am thankful that Creator put me in a position that I can talk with so many people now around the world. We're working together to organize, to put crops, to do education, the programs like the reunification, where we bring in families together, and we got face painting and storytelling and drumming and cooking and doing various other things, and with the adults talking about food and medicines and the various things that are available and things to avoid. Those are things that are important, and these are things that we're bringing together as Rainbow Warriors to unite people around the world, that we can restore the earth. And that is the fifth world. That people come together as humble people, as little people of nations and tribes, and as little ones, there's great power. And in that, we can control and change our governments.
How can people contact you or get your book?
You can find me on Facebook, Chief Mel Standing Eagle. I had to create the page for the grandmothers. I just had my personal profile working with Dannion, but Chief Mel Standing Eagle. And you can go on Amazon, A Life Most Magical, and also on Light Streamers, LIGHTSTREAMERS.com. You will find Dannion's Prophecies. You will find Mel Standing Eagle there, and links to the books. I'm going to be adding more things. I'm working on a new program that I just sent a grandmother in Australia called Gakatia, which is a Cherokee word meaning to set free. And there's a whole story behind that that we just don't have time for today. But this is all coming together. And I think it's all coming together for the good of mankind. And I have hope, I have faith, and I believe that we can win.
Hi, I'm Janet Riley, and I'm the Executive Director of the International Association for Near-Death Studies. And I am thrilled to invite you to join us at our annual conference, August 27th to the 31st in Oak Brook, Illinois, just outside Chicago, where we will celebrate the 50th anniversary of the field of near-death studies. Join us for 4 inspiring days with more than 100 speakers, including the legendary Life After Life author Raymond Moody, University of Virginia Professor Emeritus Dr. Bruce Grayson, Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell of the Telepathy Tapes, the psychic lawyer Mark Anthony, and spiritual teacher Carolyn Mace, among others. You'll experience healing workshops, including meditation, Reiki, spiritual counseling, and our beloved bookstore with exclusive book signings, surrounded by others who share your interests and your experiences. Come make friends and become part of a warm, caring community that will beckon you to return. Every year, we welcome nearly 1,000 attendees and serve over 20,000 globally through educational resources and support groups. This warm, deeply connected community celebrates life and the life that follows. For nearly 50 years, IANS has represented researchers who study near-death experiences and supported those who have had near-death experiences and experienced related phenomena. Our mission is to educate the world. Our hope is that by supporting research and people, and by communicating far and wide to reporters, podcasters, and through our website and social media, we can normalize discussions about death and the afterlife and help answer the very important question: what happens when we die? Our planet faces unprecedented challenges, and our conference offers a place to recharge, to be informed, to be healed and inspired. Register now at iands.org, that's IANDS.org, and become part of a gathering that informs, heals, and inspires. We hope to see you there.
This has been the A.J. Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.